Hey, what's up, everybody? DFS Rico coming at you with my first looks for this Week 7 NFL Draftkings slate. I'm going to go position by position and just go through these picks that I like early on. Obviously, we don't have injuries in play. We don't have just people who are questionable. We don't know a lot of info this early in the week, but it is just like a first glance at the slate, letting you guys know what I'm looking at early on. And then towards the end of the week on Friday, make sure you subscribe. I will be posting another video, which will be like a narrowed list. It will be a shorter video than this because I won't be going through every single player. I will have my player pool kind of narrowed down a little more, and then you guys can kind of decide and dictate where you want to go from there. But I will be having timestamps in this video as well. So if you want to scroll through quarterback, running back, whatever position, it'll be easy for you guys to navigate through it. I will put it in the description, maybe even pin it in the comments. But before I get into it, just like, comment, subscribe. I really do appreciate it. Any like, any comment, any subscriber is very much appreciated. But let's get to it. So Wilson playing Arizona. I do like him in this game. I like this matchup. This Wilson or Murray are two guys I will be interested in as the week goes on as well. I'd rather pay for those guys other than Josh Allen and Mahomes because I do think Mahomes and Allen are in a game where they can get ahead and not have to pass the ball that much. So I don't really want to gamble on it. I feel like the Seattle and Arizona game will stay competitive and high scoring. They're just pricey. So I don't mind playing either one of those guys. Murray, Wilson, not bad plays. Scrolling down, another game I want to target is Aaron Rodgers and Deshaun Watson. 7K Aaron Rodgers. Didn't look good last week, 5.8 fantasy points, but he gets a good matchup this week versus Houston. If Tannehill was able to do that to the Texans, Rodgers can do it as well. I mean, not that Tannehill is that bad, but I know I'd rather have Rodgers than Tannehill still. Then you got Deshaun Watson. Same game. I like him. He looked good in this last game as well. After he had that tough schedule at the start, he had Kansas City, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh. Follows it up with Minnesota, Jacksonville, and Tennessee, and has himself 24 points and higher in every single game. It's been looking very good. Him and Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks has been looking solid as well. I like both sides of this game, same as I did for that first game. Scrolling down, then you got another game you're going to be very interested in. Matt Ryan, 6.7K. Looked better in this last game as well. 35 fantasy points after he had a 12, and a 7. He had that bounce back game versus Minnesota. Minnesota's a terrible team in offense and defense, it looks like. But Matt Ryan finally bounced back. Julio Jones got involved. Again, we all like to see that. Calvin Ridley was involved. Hayden Hurst was involved. So I do like that game for sure. I think I'm more of a guy that likes to play guys that are lesser owned. So I am interested in playing all the guys from those 3 games. Even Matthew Stafford. Here's the other guy I wanted to talk about. I like all 6 of those quarterbacks. But I like to shy away from the heavily owned guys. So once I do see the ownership between those games, I will probably drift away from that game a little bit. Not to say they're bad plays, but just for me personally, I will play less of them, whichever team ends up having less ownership. But then the next guy I want to talk about, like I said, Stafford and Herbert. I like Herbert as well. He is going against Jacksonville. We saw what Stafford did. We saw what DeAndre Swift did. That's the thing that worries me in this game, though. If Jacksonville gets too far behind, Justin Jackson, Joshua Kelly are going to have themselves good games. So those are guys you're going to want to look at as well in the running back position. Just keep an eye out on that. If you believe this game stays close, I would play more Justin Herbert. If you think it blows out, I would play obviously more of the running backs for the Chargers instead. Tannehill versus Pittsburgh, not going to go to Pittsburgh. And then Gardner Minshew, if you think that game stays close, I don't have an issue with 5.9. He's one of the cheaper guys I pay for on this slate, followed by the next guy that I would pay for that's really cheap is Joe Burrow. He's another guy I'm interested in. He's been throwing the ball a fairly decent amount all season. Didn't need to in that Jacksonville game, and then he got slaughtered by Baltimore, but we expected that. Follows it up with a game with Indianapolis. They were up, I think it was 24-0 or 21-0, and they just blew it. Phillip Rivers brought them back, but he still played solid. I know it was kind of inflated by the touchdown that he got from the 1-yard line, but I think it's all right. He's good. I like Higgins. I like Boyd. I like Green. He finally got that connection not back with Green, but he got some kind of connection with Green going, so that's something we do like to see. But like I said, early on, games I am interested in: Seattle, Arizona, Detroit, Atlanta, Green Bay, and Houston. And then the Chargers and Jacksonville. Those are probably the main games I'm interested early on right now. Not really looking away from them right now, but like I said, once ownership comes out, I will have a better understanding of which direction I want to go in. Bouncing over to the running back position, got Christian McCaffrey, obviously, is on IR. Kamara at 7.9 is in a smash spot. We know how terrible Carolina is versus running backs. Did a lot better last week, but they're still ranked 32nd. I do like Kamara a good amount. If I'm paying up, I think as of right now, he's the main guy I'm paying up for. If I was to plug someone in, it would probably be Kamara right now at 7.9K. He's the guy I would look at. Then you got Ezekiel Elliott. I like Ezekiel Elliott as well against Washington. They're still going to give him the ball a ton of times. I know he didn't have the best game last game. He fumbled twice, but he still had the ball. 11 targets, 12 carries. He still had 23 go his way. He still had 20 touches. Like, he's going to get his touches. If these guys get ahead in this game, he's going to be the guy that continues to get the ball. So I do like Elliott, but I prefer Kamara as of right now. Then you got down Derrick Henry. Still prefer Kamara over Derrick Henry. I know he had that huge game, but Pittsburgh is tough. They are tough. They're like the second best running defense. One of the best. Aaron Jones against Houston. He can have himself a bounce back game. Houston's been struggling versus running backs all season. You saw what Derrick Henry did to him. You saw what Dalvin Cook earlier. I think he did like a 3-touchdown game against him earlier this season. Houston is very much struggling with running back. Even Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the first game of the season had a good game against them. They're just struggling versus running backs. So if you don't want to pay up for Kamara, or if you want to pair Kamara up with Jones, I have no issue with that. Kareem Hunt versus Cincinnati. I don't mind playing a little bit of him. He had, 15 touches last game. So I do like him. Got James Conner at 6.7K. Mike Davis at 6.6 came down in price tag. He should get a little favorable matchup versus New Orleans compared to his last matchup. Chris Carson against Arizona. He's been playing very good this season. Other than that 10-point game he had, he's been playing very good. I feel like he's really touchdown dependent, but so if you're into that, he could be a different play for sure. James Robinson versus the Chargers. Been over 10 fantasy points a game. Not really too interested in him. If Joe Mixon is healthy, I am very interested in Joe Mixon at this price tag. 6.3K. He's getting 20 touches plus a game. He had 20, 30, 30 in these games. Like, it's just insane. Like, he's going to get his touches. It looks like they're favoring him more in the passing game as well. So I do like Joe Mixon at 6.3. My favorite play in this little price range right here. Clyde Edwards-Helaire looked very good this last game. I think it was last night versus Buffalo. 161 yards. Didn't get a touchdown. Still struggling with touchdowns, but Le'Veon Bell is coming back into the equation, so keep an eye out on that. It's going to be the first game back. I'd probably rather shy away because I don't know what Le'Veon Bell is going to look like, and then come back to it probably the second game just to see what it looks like in the first game. I don't know what they're going to plan, but Andy Reid, he likes to play around, so I don't know. I wouldn't be too confident in playing too much of him. I'd rather just pay up for a guy like Joe Mixon. Even a guy like Todd Gurley's not a bad play. Detroit hasn't been good versus backs. He's getting his touches, man. He got 18, 17, 23 in this game. Like, he's playing good. He's getting touches. That's all you can ask for a running back, honestly. If they're getting opportunity, I'm all over those guys. Jerick McKinnon should be starting over Raheem Mostert if you do want to play him. I don't really like to target New England. Devin Singletary at 5.8K. I like him as well. 5.6. Scrolling down, really just ignoring these guys. DeAndre Swift had himself that good game last week. Atlanta has been struggling mightily versus running backs all season. If you think DeAndre Swift gets a bump, he did have, 17 touches this last game. If you think he gets anywhere in that range at 5.4, 17 to 20 touches, it's a good price tag. And he's involved in the passing game, which is the reason I like him more, I think, than Peterson. Because if they do fall behind, which I think they do, Swift is going to come in and have a big role. I do like Swift a good amount. I have him even in my fantasy league, and I like him, man. David Johnson, 5.3K. Green Bay's been struggling versus backs as well all season. So I do like David Johnson. Phillip Lindsay had himself a good game. As far as yards, didn't get no touchdowns, no receptions, but 131 yards. 101 yards. 101? Yeah, 101. He didn't play too bad. Just needed to get a touchdown. He is going to be going against Kansas City, so I don't know how he'll fare in that. Then you got Joshua Kelly down here. It's between Joshua Kelly and Justin Jackson, whichever way you guys want to go. Where is Justin Jackson at? Jeez. Right here. 4.9 Justin Jackson or 5.1 Joshua Kelly. Both of those are cheap guys I would be interested in. Jackson did have more workload in the last game. He had more carries, more receptions. And I think I prefer Jackson just because he's involved in the passing game. So I do like Jackson as well. I do like DeAndre Swift down here. James White didn't look like a bad play this last game. He had 15.3 fantasy points, 9 targets. He had 9 targets his second game back, 8 targets his first game back. I like James White a good amount at 4.9. I feel like he's a different play. If you don't want to play Jackson, James White's probably the way you want to go. Chase Edmonds. You got Latavius Murray. Not too interested. I have no idea why Kenyon Drake is 4.8K. That's legit insane. I know he's not involved in the passing game, but this guy's getting 20 touches a game. At 4.8, he had himself a huge game yesterday. I like him. 4.8K, that's way too cheap for a guy like that's getting 20 touches a game, in my opinion. And if he can just get a little more involved in the passing game, because I do think they fall behind in the game, I do like him even more. I think that's it down here. I don't really like anyone else down here. Scrolling down, nobody. Nope. I think we're good. Let's bounce over to wide receivers. We got DeAndre Hopkins up top, 8.2, and a good matchup. I think this game's going to be a shootout. If you don't play these guys. But if you do, Hopkins is a guy I wouldn't mind playing. Because you can pay down at running back and you probably still have a solid line as well and be different. Devontae Adams is 7.9, still had just 10 targets. Only had 6 receptions for 61 yards, but he still had 10 targets. Can't complain in a game where A.J. Brown just destroyed Houston. I don't see why Devontae Adams can't do the same thing. Got Michael Thomas, should be returning back. Might have some low ownership. People might stick away from him because of guys like Hopkins and Adams and the matchups that they're in. Calvin Ridley had himself a good game, 7.3. Like, all these guys that I'm mentioning are guys that I mentioned that are going to be high, like in high-scoring games. The Seattle, Arizona, the Green Bay, Houston, all these guys, Detroit and Atlanta. Those 3 games, you're going to want to target those guys. Diggs looked good in the first half. Then he kind of disappeared for the rest of the game. But then you got Julio Jones. Cooper had his 10 targets, I think. 10 targets, 20.9 fantasy points. This game, I think, is going to be a lot closer, and they're not going to need to pass the ball that much. So I'd rather just find guys around here like Will Fuller. I even rather pay Will Fuller. I'd rather play Galladay. I'd rather play Lockett. I'd rather play Julio. These guys up here, Metcalf, than Cooper, Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill. Honestly, I'd just rather play all those guys before any of them. A.J. Brown had himself a monster game. We know his last 2 games from injury. He's been killing it. He's been a beast. And then Jonnu Smith is out. He's questionable. If he's out, I mean, obviously that bumps A.J. Brown. I know he's playing against Pittsburgh, but still. He's more of a GPP play because these guys are priced a little higher than him and a little below him, or I like a little more. Keenan Allen, 6.2, has been a target monster. He only had 2 targets in this game because he did leave in the first quarter due to injury. He still got the touchdown, though. But I think if he comes back from injury, he's going to be a guy I'm heavily invested in. If he's going to continue to get me over 10 targets a game, I think he's locked into 10 targets a game. And Herbert just loves him, it looks like. And I love me some Keenan Allen. So no issues with Keenan Allen. Odell Beckham Jr., you got Robbie Anderson. Didn't look as good last week, I think. Nah. 11.7. Not as good as he's been looking. So this is a game where I could see me playing a little bit of him. Terry McLaurin, too cheap. 5.8, 12 targets. If he's going to be getting that kind of targets in a game versus Dallas, where I think Dallas gets ahead and they're going to need to throw the ball a little more, I do like McLaurin. I don't care who's throwing him the ball. It seems like he just finds ways to get involved in the game, and I like it. Can't complain about targets. And then Jamison Crowder. Didn't have as many targets. Oh, he had 13 targets. He had 7 receptions and 48 yards. The thing is, he didn't turn into these crazy games where he was 7, 7, 7, and over 100 yards in every time. He had the targets. He just wasn't breaking one out, and which kind of sucks. But I am interested in him as well. There's a lot of cheap receivers that I really like too. Like, there's a lot of ways you can go with roster construction for sure. Claypool. I mean, you got Claypool at 5.7. You got DJ Moore at 5.6. Chark. In that same game I was talking about, 14 targets, only had 11 points, but still, if he's getting targets, can't complain. Like I mentioned, Boyd, Higgins, both good in that game versus Cleveland. Brandon Cooks, playing him. He is a slot guy. We saw Godwin had himself a decent game against Green Bay. Didn't need to throw the ball that much, so Godwin didn't do as good as he could have. But I think he has more upside than what was shown. But Brandon Cooks, I think this game remains closer, so Brandon Cooks will be involved, and even he was heavily involved this last game. 9 targets, 12 targets in the last 2 games. 21 targets in 2 games is very good after he gave us that donut the other week. A bunch of cheap receivers that I like. Just all over the board, I swear. Christian Kirk had that 4.9, only had 3 targets, so it's not someone I'm hugely interested in. Corey Davis looks like he's back, though. I think he's going to be back. It's been like 3 weeks, so he should be back this week, which will give him a bump, I guess. Maybe bring A.J. Brown down a little bit, I guess. Keelan Cole, Marvin Williams, 2 other guys you might want to look at. He had 8 targets this game, but I think it was mainly because Keenan Allen was out. Before that, I mean, you have his games with Keenan Allen in. He had 1 target, 4 targets. And then he had 9 in this one. That was a game with Tyrod Taylor. We know he likes to throw the deep ball. So it just depends how that game looks. It's all about the way you think the games are going to turn out, right? Michael Gallup is a nice GPP play. He has that upside at 4.6. Tim Patrick had himself a couple targets, 8 targets, and then 7 the game before that. Drew Lock liked him last week. I think he likes him again this week because they will be coming from behind. So I don't mind playing some of these Broncos. Adam Humphries had himself a good game. No Jonnu Smith obviously gives him a bump as well. AJ Green is a guy I'm looking at, 4.3. After he got himself 11 targets this last game. He was getting targets earlier in the season. He had 9 and 13, and he just wasn't catching them. But I think hopefully this last game shows that him and Burrow are getting some kind of connection going. So it benefits AJ Green, and it benefits us if we decide to play him. So I do like AJ Green a decent amount. I think that's really all I like down here. There's a bunch of guys, random guys you can throw in, but not guys I feel too comfortable playing. So AJ Green's probably the lowest I will go and feel a little kind of confidence. Not like overly confident, but I'll feel some decent amount of confidence. You got George Kittle up top at the tight end position, 6.5K. We know what he can do any given night. He's just a beast. But one thing I do think, New England is very good at removing your best player from the game. And I think that's what their game plan is going to be. They're going to try to focus getting Kittle out of the game, double teaming him, finding ways to remove him and have everyone else beat him. So it'll be a good game, I think, to go and play guys like Debo or Ayuk and they can have some good games just because Kittle will be probably double teamed the entire game. Travis Kelce's been playing good. I think he's had over 10 fantasy points in every game this season. About 15 or more except one against New England, which was, like I told you, they kind of just got him out of the game. That was their strategy. He had 3 receptions. He still had 7 targets, 70 yards, but it wasn't the normal Kelce we're used to seeing. Hawkinson is way too expensive in my opinion. He's only getting like a couple targets a game, 5 targets. I mean, he didn't get too many targets, I guess, because they were ahead massively, but who knows? In this game where it's going to be a shootout, I think, Detroit and Atlanta, I could see him getting targets. Noah Fant coming back from injury. Jonnu Smith, we're still waiting on his injury. So just keep an eye out on that, which I will talk about the value guy in his position. Tanyan, obviously that Green Bay, Houston, Jacksonville, Chargers. There's just here again, Hurst. All these guys are priced up because they know that these games are going to be high scoring. They just know. Trust me. Even Fells, look at him at 4.1K, 7 targets last game, 20.5 fantasy points. If Akins is out again, will not play Sunday against the Titans. If he's out again, I could see Fells being in play again. Dalton Schultz had some targets early on in this game, but he kind of drifted away towards the end of the game. Logan Thomas at 3.5 finally got his damn touchdown after I didn't play him. So it just happens like that. Who else? Let's keep going. Chris Herndon, has he been doing anything? No, I haven't been playing him, so. And then Firkser, Anthony Firkser. Did they spell his name right? Isn't it Frisker? I thought it was Frisker. I might be wrong. I am wrong. He had 9 targets. After Jonnu Smith, he just came in and beasted it. 113 yards, 3K. 1 touchdown. If Jonnu Smith is out, I will have some interest in him, even in the tough matchup. For 3K, I will punt him and feel pretty decent about it. Because I don't think there will be big plays in that game. I think tight ends are heavily involved in the short game. And I think that's what this game's going to be involved in a lot, is a lot of short game passes. So I do like him as well. I don't think I like anyone else at the tight end position. Just target those games. As of right now, I'm looking at targeting those games I'm really into, those games that I just mentioned. So that's why I'm looking at it early on. Defense, I just kind of plug in a defense that makes sense for the most part. I'm not going to play, I'm not going to play one of these shootout defenses, I think. I'm not going to play the Texans versus Green Bay. I'm not going to play the Jets versus Buffalo. Well, the Jets versus Buffalo might not be the worst, but who knows. That's just it, though, guys. I think I just went position by position. I will have the timestamps. Let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe. I really do appreciate it. And I think that's really it. Just a quick rundown through each position. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it.